Sean Diddy Combs' trial just took a dramatic turn. From shocking extortion claims to wild freak-off testimonies and secret surveillance, Day 7 delivered jaw-dropping moments that could reshape the entire case. Diddy's empire is crumbling, and now his former assistant, Cassie's own mother, and even a man known as the Punisher, have all taken the stand. What they revealed? It's darker than anyone expected. And yes, we're now talking RICO. Let's break it all down.
David James, Sean Combs' former assistant, didn't just take the stand, he commanded it. Charismatic, sharp, and unshaken by the pressure of a federal courtroom, James dropped revelations that ripped the curtain off Diddy's inner circle. And what he revealed paints a picture of an empire fueled by secrecy, intimidation, and luxury coated in chaos. James began by describing the infamous Louis Vuitton bag, a designer accessory turned mobile command center. This wasn't just a fashion statement. Inside, stacks of cash, sometimes $10,000 or more, mysterious unlabeled pill bottles, Viagra, Tylenol, MDMA, baby oil, condoms, and even personal lubricants. The bag, James said, was constantly in circulation, and its contents directly linked to the business of pleasure, power, and control. But here's where things get shady. When James needed reimbursement for business expenses, say medicine or snacks, he'd be reimbursed by Diddy's company. But for more sensitive items like Astroglide or protection, he was told to get his money directly from Diddy's security team, paid in cash from the LV bag. Why the separation? According to James, Diddy didn't want these purchases showing up on company records. In other words, he kept his vices off the books. And this wasn't a one-time situation. This was a system. James also revealed that Diddy requested him to deliver an iPod to a hotel room. When no one answered the door, James walked in, only to discover Cassie lying in bed with another man while Diddy was in the shower. The man, James testified, was well-endowed and unknown to him. Cassie didn't move. Diddy said nothing. And James? He did what he was trained to do: observe, never question. This wasn't just a workplace, it was a place of rules unspoken, boundaries ignored, and fear silently enforced. And it gets darker. James told the court that Diddy once used lie detector tests, administered by former FBI swans, on staff when personal items went missing. He even described an incident where security searched his personal belongings, and another where Diddy secretly filmed him while drunk at a party and said, "I'm going to keep that, just in case." It was clear Diddy didn't just manage employees. He monitored, manipulated, and collected leverage, just like a man protecting an empire built on secrets. But James's story wasn't over yet. Just when the courtroom thought they had heard it all, David James dropped a bombshell that instantly shifted the tone from shady to downright sinister. He testified about an incident so intense, it sounded like something out of a gangster film. According to James, one night while working for Diddy, he and one of Combs' security guards went to Mel's diner, just a routine food run. But things escalated fast when they spotted a familiar face in the parking lot. Suge Knight, the infamous Death Row Records mogul and Diddy's longtime rival. The guard casually approached Knight, exchanged a few words, and the two men went inside to grab food. When they returned to Diddy's mansion, everything changed. Outside the house, Diddy and his then-girlfriend were arguing intensely, and she looked like she had been crying. And that's when Diddy snapped. He ordered James and the guard to get back in the car, but this wasn't just a late-night drive. James testified that Diddy got in the back seat with 3 loaded firearms in his lap. That's right, 3 guns. He wanted to go back to the diner and confront Suge Knight. And James, he drove terrified, completely aware that his life might be in danger. "It was the first time I truly feared for my safety," he told the court. When they got to the diner, Suge was already gone. But the message was loud and clear. Diddy was prepared for war. It was a moment that forever altered James's view of his boss. This wasn't about business or music anymore. This was the behavior of a man operating like a mob boss, complete with an entourage, secret weapons, and late-night confrontations. After that incident, James gave his notice. He offered to stay 6 more months to train a replacement, but he knew he had to get out. "My life was at risk," he told the court. During cross-examination, the defense tried to make him look like a liar, questioning why he didn't refuse to drive or report the incident. James calmly replied, "Respectfully, sir, if someone has 3 guns in close proximity, you don't have the option to say no." It was a chilling moment that left the courtroom stunned. But that wasn't the only story that added fuel to the growing RICO fire. If the jury hadn't already realized how deep this went, Cassie's mother, Regina Ventura, made it crystal clear, and her testimony was devastating. She wasn't just there to defend her daughter. She came with receipts, literal proof that Sean Diddy Combs had crossed a legal and moral line so severe, it echoed the very foundation of the RICO case being built against him. Regina testified about an email she received from Cassie in December 2011, a message that shook her to her core. In it, Cassie confided that Diddy was threatening to release explicit videos of her as revenge for dating another man, Kid Cudi. Diddy allegedly demanded $20,000 to keep the tapes private. This wasn't a vague threat whispered behind closed doors. According to Regina, Diddy's bookkeeper sent her detailed instructions on how to wire the money. That's right, his own financial employee facilitated the transaction. And the worst part? She paid it. Regina and her husband were so terrified for Cassie's safety, they took out a home equity loan just to come up with the $20,000. She wired it straight to Bad Boy's account, an official transaction to silence a man who allegedly used revenge porn as leverage. "I was physically sick," she told the jury. "He was trying to hurt my daughter." That wire transfer, tied to a documented email from Diddy's bookkeeper, is damning. It's not just emotional testimony, it's hard evidence of a potential extortion scheme orchestrated through company channels. That alone could carry serious criminal implications. And here's where it gets even stranger. 4 or 5 days later, the money was returned. No apology, no explanation, just returned. Why? Did Diddy realize he crossed a legal line? Was he advised to walk it back? Either way, the transaction happened, and now it's a major part of this trial. But Regina didn't stop there. She also testified that she had personally taken photos of Cassie's injuries. These images were reportedly shown to the jury, visibly disturbing, emotionally charged, and brutally real. Regina's voice cracked as she recounted the fear she lived in, especially after an incident where Diddy allegedly stole Cassie's phone, prompting her to call the police. And when the defense had their chance to cross-examine her, they passed. That silence spoke louder than any question could have. Diddy's legal team had no strategy, no spin, no way to dismantle the paper trail and raw emotion she brought to court. What else were they trying to avoid? We were about to find out. Then came the most surreal and disturbing testimony of the day, from a man known in court only as the Punisher. His real name? Not as important as the role he allegedly played in Diddy's world of power, control, and spectacle. He wasn't a bodyguard. He wasn't an assistant. He was allegedly hired to perform during what insiders call freak-offs, elaborately staged events where Diddy reportedly watched in silence from the shadows. According to his testimony, Diddy's then-girlfriend Cassie invited him to a luxury suite at Trump Tower in 2012. When he arrived, she was wearing nothing but a bathrobe and a wig. She handed him a sack of cash, $800, and clear instructions. Create a scene involving the two of them, applying baby oil to each other. But whatever happened, he was told to ignore Diddy completely. No eye contact, no acknowledgement, no interaction. Diddy, he said, would be watching while wearing a face covering. This wasn't a one-off. The Punisher testified that he took part in 8 to 10 freak-offs over the years, all in New York, all starting at 2 or 3 a.m., and sometimes lasting multiple days. He described a tightly controlled environment where he was usually contacted around 5 p.m. to prepare for the performance that same night. And this wasn't some drug-fueled mess where no one remembered what happened. He stated clearly that Diddy appeared sober every single time. That matters, because it undermines any potential claim that Diddy was not mentally present or aware of what he was orchestrating. But things got strange when the witness's credibility wavered. First, he claimed Cassie showed no discomfort during these encounters. Then moments later, he admitted to seeing her sigh and wince as Diddy gave instructions during the scenes. He also initially denied any filming occurred, only to later say Diddy would occasionally tell him to move the camera. It was a contradiction the defense pounced on, but not before one final reveal. The Punisher wrote a book. Yes, really? He authored a memoir titled In Search of Freezer Meat, a graphic personal story about erectile dysfunction, mental health, and the supposed miracle cure of an implant. He described Diddy and Cassie in the book as a married, wealthy couple, appearing in 6 out of 186 pages. And while it sounds absurd, that book suddenly became a topic of courtroom discussion. Why? because the defense argued this whole testimony was just a promo stunt for book sales. But even if parts of his story were inconsistent, one thing rang true. He confirmed the existence of a highly organized, ritualistic environment where women were props, cameras were rolling, and Diddy was always in control. But the trial pulled those pages into the spotlight. Defense lawyers accused him of harboring feelings for Cassie and using the trial to promote his book. But the damage was already done. His bizarre testimony added another twisted layer to an already disturbing pattern. Still, the biggest bombshell came from law enforcement itself. If there were still any doubts about how serious this case is, Homeland Security erased them. Federal Agent Jared Gannon, part of the Homeland Security Investigations, HSI team, took the stand next. His role? Planning and executing the raid on Diddy's $40 million Star Island mansion, the crown jewel of Diddy's empire, and possibly the heart of his alleged criminal network. This wasn't some small-scale operation. Gannon revealed that 80 to 90 armed federal agents were involved. The raid was meticulously timed. They waited until Diddy left for a trip with his family before striking, initiating the operation at exactly 3:00 p.m. Eastern. Their target, a 20,000-square-foot fortress, complete with security teams, surveillance systems, and luxury behind every wall. But what they found inside went way beyond opulence. It bordered on a fortress of illicit power and perversion. According to Gannon, agents had to use a tank to break through the gates, a move the defense would later try to paint as excessive. But Gannon shut that argument down, explaining it was standard procedure when dealing with potentially armed suspects and fortified compounds. Once inside, the evidence they uncovered was staggering. In Diddy's master bedroom, agents discovered parts of AR-15 rifles, ammunition magazines, red dot scopes, and lower receivers, key components that can be used to assemble fully automatic firearms. And it gets worse, the serial numbers were scratched off. Let that sink in. These weren't collectible pieces. These were ghost guns, untraceable and potentially illegal, lying inside the closet of a man who, until recently, was considered hip-hop royalty. According to the agent, this wasn't a random fluke. These were tools of potential violence. But that wasn't all. Scattered among the firearms and military-grade attachments were high heels, platform shoes, adult toys, lubricant, baby oil, and lingerie. Items stacked and stored in bizarre volume, a twisted inventory, almost like a private dungeon hidden in plain sight. And this is the same house where Diddy's children lived. As disturbing as the contrast is, what it represents may be even worse. The convergence of power and violence all under one roof. All of it adds fuel to the growing RICO allegations, suggesting that Diddy wasn't just throwing wild parties. He was running an organized enterprise of exploitation and criminal activity. And then came the clincher. Gannon produced an evidence bag, right there in the courtroom. Inside, the lower receivers recovered from Diddy's closet. He testified that they could have been used in fully automatic weapons, although they were found set to semi-mode at the time of seizure. Either way, these weren't props. They were dangerous and potentially illegal. And the cherry on top? The agent confirmed that more photos of the weapons, the serial numbers, and even the kink closet contents had been presented to the jury. Though the public hasn't seen those images yet, the sheer volume of items paints a picture the defense will have a hard time explaining away. And just as things were reaching a boiling point, court adjourned for the day. But before leaving, the prosecution made one final tease. Tomorrow, Kid Cudi may testify. Before court ended for the day, the prosecution hinted that Kid Cudi himself may testify, likely to corroborate the story about Cassie's relationship and Diddy's explosive reaction. Also on the witness list, Dr. Dawn Hughes, the controversial psychologist known for testifying in cases for Amber Heard and Harvey Weinstein. We're also expecting former employees and financial staff to appear before the Memorial Day weekend break. With every witness, the RICO structure becomes more visible. Diddy's defense? Getting weaker by the day. What started as a scandal is now unfolding into a massive criminal case. Extortion, weapons, drugs, abuse, and a trail of silence and fear. Whether or not high-profile names like J.Lo or Bieber ever take the stand, the case against Diddy is stacking up fast. If you want to stay on top of every twist in this explosive trial, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We've got more updates coming daily, including what happens if Kid Cudi testifies tomorrow. You don't want to miss it.